streamlet which flows through our village. In this work there is no English, American, or Chinese assistance. I formed the idea of The Last Day of a Condemned, where you all might form it, where perhaps you may all have formed it. For who is there that has not reflected and had reveries of the last day of a condemned, there on the public walk, the place of execution? It was there, while passing casually during an execution, that this forcible idea occurred to me. And since then, after those funereal Thursdays of the Court of Cassation, which sent forth through Paris the intelligence of an approaching execution, the hoarse voices of the assembling spectators, as they hurried past my windows, filled my mind with the prolonged misery of the person about to suffer, which I pictured to myself from hour to hour, according to what I conceived was its actual progress. It was a torture which commenced from daybreak, and lasted, like that of the miserable being who was tortured at the same moment, until 4 o'clock. Then only, when once the ponens caput expiravit was announced by the heavy toll of the clock, I breathed again freely, and regained comparative peace of mind. One day at length, I think it was after the execution of Ulbach, I commenced writing this work, and since then I have felt relieved. When one of those public crimes, called legal executions, is committed, my conscience now acquits me of participation therein. This, however, is not sufficient. It is well to be freed from self-accusation, but it would still be better to endeavour to save human life. I do not know any aim more elevated, more holy, than that of seeking the abolition of capital punishment. With sincere devotion I join to the wishes and efforts of those philanthropic men of all nations who have laboured of late years to throw down the patibulary tree, the only tree which revolution fails to uproot. It is with pleasure that I take my turn to give my feeble stroke, after the all-powerful blow which 70 years ago Beccaria gave to the ancient gibbet, which had been standing during so many centuries of Christianity. I have just said that the scaffold is the only edifice which revolutions do not demolish. It is rare indeed that revolutions are temperate in spilling blood, and although they are sent to prune, to lop, to reform society, the punishment of death is a branch which they have never removed. I own, however, if any revolution ever appeared to me capable and worthy of abolishing capital punishment, it was the Revolution of July, 1830. It seemed, indeed, as if it belonged to the merciful popularizing of modern times to erase the barbarous enactments of Louis XI, of Richelieu, and of Robespierre, and to inscribe at the head of the code the inviolability of human life. 1830 was worthy of breaking the axe of 1793. At one time we really hoped for it. In August 1830 there seemed so much generosity afloat, such a spirit of gentleness and civilization in the multitude, that we almost fancied the punishment of death was abolished by a tacit and unanimous consent with the rest of the evils which had oppressed us. For some weeks, confiding and credulous, we had faith in the inviolability of life for the future, as in the inviolability of liberty. In effect, 2 months had scarcely passed, when an attempt was made to resolve into a legal reality the sublime utopia of Caesar Bonesana. Unfortunately, this attempt was awkward, imperfect, almost hypocritical, and made in a different spirit from the general interest. It was in the month of October 1830, as may be remembered, that the question of capital punishment was brought before the Chamber of Deputies, and discussed with much talent, energy, and apparent feeling. During 2 days there was a continued succession of impressive eloquence on this momentous subject. And what was the subject? To abolish the punishment of death? Yes and no. Here is the truth. 4 gentlemen, 4 persons well known in society, the ministers who were afterwards imprisoned in the fortress of Ham, had attempted, in the higher range of politics, one of those daring strokes which Bacon calls crimes, and which Machiavel calls